Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tiesenghausen. Today is July 9th. Here are the main news stories at this moment. I don't know if you've seen how Putin melted down at the meeting on fuel issues, how he fell apart during that meeting. I'm going to show you everything right now. He was doing some crazy stuff there, but let's go through everything in order. After successful Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian oil refineries, Putin called yet another emergency meeting. He demanded that a prompt decision be made to supply fuel to the occupied Crimea and the Russian Federation. In my opinion, this was the most cringe-worthy meeting, where the old man, completely out of his mind, was coming up with random, haphazard solutions for how to get out of the crisis. This is not a joke. I'm about to show you a video with the absolute top genius solutions from Putin. The thing is, 2 weeks ago, that bald devil, this guy, he declared that he was personally taking control of the gasoline situation in Russia. Apparently, something went wrong. Putin wasn't able to take the situation under his personal control. And remember, he was saying there was no shortage at all, that they would quickly fix everything. But here, at this meeting, every word is just a masterpiece of typical Putin demagoguery, empty blabber. And by the way, he came up with a new version of why Ukraine is attacking Russian enterprises. Let's listen to a bit of what Putin said to understand just how disconnected from reality it is. First of all, pay attention to what his priority is when it comes to supplying fuel. Who does he want to supply with this fuel first and foremost? Take a look.
Нужно, безусловно, обеспечить потребности государственных органов правопорядка, силовых структур, это очевидно, но и имея в виду, что и граждане не должны чувствовать особой нагрузки, принять решение следует как можно быстрее по субсидированию. Александр Валентинович, проработайте, пожалуйста, с Минфином, так, если нужна будет какая-то поддержка с моей стороны, хотя я думаю, что и в Минфине все понимают, это вещи временного характера, это совершенно очевидные вещи, связанные еще и с действиями по срыву сезонных отпусков наших граждан.
Oh dear, he let it slip. First and foremost, he says, fuel needs to be supplied to law enforcement agencies, to the security forces, so that, God forbid, the common folk don't revolt. And then he caught himself and added, well, yes, and to Russians too. Do you realize what he just said? It turns out, according to him, Ukraine is striking Russian oil refineries to disrupt citizens' vacation season in the south of the country. Of course, that's the main reason. It's all those evil Ukrainians. Not to end the war. Not so that Putin would stop, but so that Russians can't take their kids to the sea for summer vacation. Basically, the old man's lost it completely. But just imagine for a second, they're seriously claiming that the strikes on oil refineries are to ruin Russians' vacations. There are more masterpieces. Let's take a look.
Очевидно совершенно, что противник стремится нанести ущерб экономике, но самое-то главное, стремится создать нервозную обстановку в обществе. Мы с вами понимаем, что эта задача невыполнимая. Запас прочности энергосистемы России очень высокий, один из самых высоких в мире.
So here's another reason. It turns out why Ukraine is striking Russian oil refineries, to create nervousness in Russian society. But it won't work, says Putin. Yeah, just go to any line for gasoline, use centipedes, and you'll see there's no nervousness there. There are stabbings, fights, shootings. That's the bare minimum of what's happening in those lines. Thousands of videos are being recorded by Russians, showing them sobbing, having hysterics, camping out with tents near gas stations just to snag a little bit of gasoline, while this lunatic claims there's no nervousness at all. Everything is fine. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You can do it right now. Don't put it off. It's important for the channel's growth. We are fighting against Putin's propaganda, and together it will be much easier and more effective for us to do this, so make sure to subscribe. Oh, and he also said that Russia's energy system has the highest safety margin in the world. Who is he even telling this to? Just yesterday, I came across a post from some Russian Z blogger. But basically, it goes like this. How did it happen that we have dozens of huge oil refineries? Trillions have been invested in Russia in oil pipelines, factories, defense, air defense missiles, and so on. And yet, in just 2 months, the whole country ended up in deep trouble. So that's what the Z blogger writes. All the major oil refineries have stopped and the air defense turned out to be powerless. How did this happen? Asks this Z-blogger. And this wheezing underground frog tells him that the margin of safety will last for centuries. And the most important thing, the cherry, or rather the slightly rotten little mandarin, on the cake, is how Putin once again proposes to solve the problem. In true Putin style. Look, he starts wheezing, scribbling on his notepad again, and spouting complete nonsense. So, solving problems the Putin way.
Нужно просто организовать работу вместе с вертикально интегрированными компаниями, договариваться быстрее, так, чтобы они тоже здесь не зажимали продукт исключительно в рамках своей распределительной сети, в рамках своих АЗС, а выдавали нужный продукт и независимым АЗС, да, и предложение Кобзева тоже следует учесть и как можно быстрее развернуть возможности работы и малого среднего бизнеса по производству нефтепродуктов.
That is, some companies are supposed to supply their products to some independent gas stations. What even is that? Don't withhold the product. Grandpa, no one is withholding the product. There just isn't any. There's no diesel, no gasoline. And then he suggested that small businesses should get involved in producing petroleum products. How is that even supposed to work? Are bakeries supposed to switch to producing gasoline? What is he even talking about? How? Even if small businesses, even mini refineries start building, where are they supposed to get it from? I mean, how is this supposed to happen at all? So how is small business supposed to cover tens of millions of tons of missing processing capacity from the large refineries that have shut down? You do realize he's talking complete nonsense. I caught myself thinking that he really does answer like a 5-year-old child. Like, let all the business owners just get together. Small and medium businesses will get together, join hands, and start making gasoline. Let them start making gasoline. Well, bring a barrel of oil to some small business owner. What is he supposed to do with it? Is he going to turn it into gasoline for you? Then why not just suggest, I don't know, calling in superheroes or some kind of magician? We'll call in a magician and he'll just turn the oil into gasoline right away. But in the end, of course, Putin gave his most valuable advice. Let's take a look.
Сделать все для того, чтобы все у нас функционировало нормально.
Really, we need to make sure everything is fine. These are Putin-style tips. Go ahead, make it so that everything is fine. I don't know, maybe one of those vanilla bloggers is working as his consultant. Let go of the situation. If a problem can't be solved, then it's simply not your problem. Those are Putin's tips. Why not? Let's give him some more answers. I've written a couple here myself. They've ruined all the refineries, meaning Russia has. It's plunging into chaos. Switch to roots and birch bark? No big deal. Don't think about fuel problems, and the fuel problem won't think about you. All problems are only in our heads. That's how you should answer Putin. Are you Russians feeling depressed? Just don't be sad and smile more. See, everything is so easy for Putin. Well, as for Ukraine and Ukrainians, they're performing an incredible feat. Giant oil and gas-rich Russia is holding emergency meetings with Putin, trying to figure out how to defeat Ukraine in the 5th year. And in every episode, we have an important fundraiser for the defense forces of Ukraine. Today, we continue raising funds for electronic warfare equipment for the 33rd Assault Regiment, which is defending the Zaporizhzhia direction. The assault troops who are the first to meet. We have about 5 or 6% left to raise in this fundraiser, I think. Just a little bit more to go. Let's give it one last push. The soldiers need electronic warfare equipment to protect themselves from enemy drones. Vehicle-mounted EW, trench EW, and personal EW systems. And the soldiers have recorded a video message for you. Please take a look.
Ми бійці 33-го окремого штурмового полку, що воює зараз на Запорізькому напрямку. Сьогодні на фронті технології змінюються дуже швидко. Противник активно використовує FPV та розвідувальні дрони, НРК. Тому нам постійно доводиться адаптуватися та посилювати захист. Одним з найефективніших рішень є засоби радіоелектронної боротьби, які дозволяють подавляти сигнали керування дронами та захищати бійців та техніку. Звертаємося по допомогу до спільноти Бориса Тізенгаузена. Штурмовикам потрібні окопний реп, автомобільний реп та індивідуальний реп для захисту бійців та техніки. Кожен такий засіб – це шанс зберегти життя воїнів та техніку. Дякуємо всім і кожному. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
Let's help our warriors. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. There are options for Mono, Private, and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad. In every episode, I want to say a special thank you from myself and from our soldiers whom you have already helped. There's just a little bit left. Let's give it one last push. Still, I understand that nobody wants to look at Putin's disgusting face, but I will show you one clip. I think even those who absolutely can't stand him, who can't bear him at all, will enjoy watching this particular clip. Watch how Baldy couldn't take it, how he started angrily scribbling, just sketching away at something when the report about fuel problems began. Take a look at this insecure and deeply self-conscious underground conqueror.
Вызывает беспокойство у людей. Для решения стоящих задач и стабилизации ситуации правительство продолжает предпринимать дополнительные шаги. Сегодня ввели запрет на экспорт дизельного топлива, и это позволит увеличить поставки на внутренний рынок. В июле также начинаем импортные поставки нефтепродуктов и наращиваем дополнительные объемы производства.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe they're not showing us everything. Maybe he spends 90% of the meeting just tracing circles with his tongue out, going around and around with that pencil or pen. Who is running Russia? I'm asking you. And you know, I also get the feeling that when Putin is briefed about the problems of Russians, he gets so bored that he just gets irritated and starts doodling something. He only listens attentively when Gerasimov reports to him about some kind of Pyrrhic victories. Like, we've taken Kupiansk again, and again we've taken Konstantinovka, and Putin... Yes, that's wonderful. You know, while this misunderstanding is grunting and signing decrees so that everything will be fine, so that everything will be normal, Ukrainian drones continue their successful attacks on Russian oil refineries. Today, Russian oil facilities were hit wholesale, so today the following were burning. The Lukoil oil depot in the Stavropol region continues to burn. This is a major regional oil depot, part of the fuel storage and distribution system. Lukoil companies handle not only the reception and storage, but also the further shipment of gasoline and diesel fuel for southern Russia. Oil, oil depot, Tver, oil products. Well, obviously, one of the main oil product storage facilities is located in Tver, in the Tver region. A reserve storage facility for accumulating and storing fuel is located 800 kilometers from the front line. We are talking about the State Reserve Oil Depot Temp in the city of Rybinsk-Yaroslavl region. This is a strategic reservoir complex. It is intended for accumulating reserves of oil products in case of supply disruptions. There are about 60 tanks there. It is precisely such facilities that make it possible to compensate for shutdowns. When major refineries stop, reserves are immediately sent from these facilities to the places where they are needed. And so damaging such facilities significantly reduces the resilience of the entire fuel supply system. The one Putin mentioned, he said ours is absolutely solid. By the way, this is part of those very reserves Putin talked about that's burning now. They also struck an oil pumping station in Ufa, which is 1,500 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. An oil terminal in the Rostov region was attacked by drones. Today is simply unbelievable. Obviously, an oil terminal is also a crucial hub for shipping petroleum products. This is where petroleum products were being sent out and transferred to rail and road transport. So basically the south of Russia, soon there won't be any fuel left at all. They also hit an oil refinery today. Krishnefteorgsyntes, Leningrad region, Putin's favorite plant. He visited this plant multiple times, both in 2009 and in 2011. He was so happy, tapping his heels, stomping, clapping his hands and patting. Go ahead, be happy, that's it. Your favorite plant is done for. By the way, it's one of the largest plants in Russia. It has a capacity of 21 million tons of oil per year. It's simply a colossal plant city. It supplies fuel to St. Petersburg, the Leningrad region, and also Moscow and the Moscow region. They've cut it off, now they're going after St. Petersburg. Any disruptions in the operation of this plant affect not only regional supplies but also exports, because it also sends fuel to the port. But that's not all. Last night, another 12 tankers were hit, plus an enemy tugboat and a dry cargo ship. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. These tankers were used to supply Russian troops with fuel. They were sending these tankers to Crimea, but something went wrong. So I did the math. Do you know what it comes out to? 35 tankers and other vessels have been hit in just the last 96 hours. I checked all the statistics on the ships. Some of them have been hit more than once. In other words, the Russians turned out to be just plain stupid, squared. When the first convoy was destroyed, then the second convoy was destroyed, they still sent them again for a third time along the same route. Tankers with fuel to Crimea through the Sea of Azov. I wouldn't be surprised if they send them a fourth time. Those that survived, the ones that didn't make it last time. And among the names, I looked at those tankers. Beautiful, so much variety. Kapitan Barmin, Sanar 1, Sanar 17, Venera, Efrosinia, Vatetis, Maria, Vladimir Erigin, Feofan Shokherev, Evgenia 3. But what are these male names? There's a first and last name just as it should be. And Venera 3. Penelope. What's going on here? Like this? Just Maria. Efrosinia Fi? What is happening? You know, you don't even need to remember them. There won't be any more of these tankers if they send them out again. Half of them are already gone for sure. The rest will be finished off. Basically, everyone got hit. Efrosinia, Aphrodite, and who else? Captain Barman, Sonar, everyone got hit. But that's not all. That's still not all. A Russian Su-35 fighter jet was shot down. What is known? Some kind of secret operation by the armed forces of Ukraine lured this Su-35 into a trap. And during an air operation involving Ukrainian F-16S, it was shot down. That very Su-35. One of the most modern Russian fighter jets, I remind you. The cost of one such aircraft is between $50 and $85 million. Well, another piece of news. For Russians, especially Muscovites, it's not very pleasant. What on earth is going on? Putin says everything is fine, but here it's one unpleasant thing after another for Russians. There is only one test left before the first Ukrainian ballistic strikes on Russia. This was stated by the head of Firepoint in an interview with Liga. That is, according to him, they are now finishing engine tests. After that, flight tests will begin and then the missiles will be launched over the territory of the Russian Federation. Let me quote. I think in the fall we will already be testing our missile on Russia. He named Moscow and protected military facilities on the territory of the Russian Federation as the first targets. Of course, without a doubt, now the gold-toothed Russian patriots will come running and start saying that Russia will bomb everything, all your missile production and so on and blah 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 and all that other stuff. I just want to point out that despite the fact that Russia continues its massive shelling of Ukraine, the number of drones flying over Russian territory is constantly increasing, and the number of targets hit is also growing. Soon, I won't have enough time in my broadcasts to list all the important sites, and in total, 56 targets were hit just this night. And that's still far from all of them that I've listed. Take note, several oil refineries at once. Oil depots, a dozen tankers, this is just in one night, that are being destroyed by the armed forces of Ukraine. Honor and praise to them. And a very interesting piece is coming out on Reuters. Putin is preparing to escalate the war in response to Ukrainian drone attacks. That is, according to one of Putin's advisors who spoke with Reuters, Baldi is stubbornly insisting on fully capturing Donbass, despite the sharp slowdown in the pace of the Russian offensive. And Putin considers the capture of Donbass a matter of principle. This was also stated by another Reuters source who regularly meets with Putin. According to the source, this escalation is likely in the coming months. Then what does escalation mean? It means they will announce mobilization. There's more about this further on. So it turns out that a group of Putin's advisors suggested stopping the war along the front line. Previously, Putin had been warned about difficulties with the budget, the economy, and problems in the banking sector. And another source for the agency, that is Reuters, spoke with a whole range of people. Some characters who have access to Putin or know something. And yet, another source for the agency emphasized that Putin believes the Russian Federation's army will soon capture Donbass. In other words, after 5 years of war, Donbass still hasn't been captured. And now suddenly, any moment now, very soon, any day now, they're about to capture it. The escalation of hostilities, according to Western military analysts, may require Putin to launch a new mass mobilization. The mobilization could take place in October after the Duma elections and will be accompanied by restrictions on leaving for neighboring countries. So does that mean he has to do something? That is, in order to change the situation, the front is at a standstill, Russia is sinking deeper and deeper into a fuel crisis, into an economic crisis, faster and faster. Of course, he needs to do something. No one is afraid of nuclear threats anymore. So, declare a mobilization, but this won't be the first, second, or even third, the mistaken decision that Putin will make. That is, he might manage to drag a couple 100,000 completely unmotivated Russians to the front, but several million, or maybe even tens of millions, will flee the country or go into hiding. Let me just remind you of the context in which all this is happening. In Russia, even for huge sums of money, which are enormous amounts for the regions, even for that money, no one wants to go and fight anymore. And keep in mind, there are still more than 2 months left before the elections in Russia. And by the time they announce all this, well, obviously no one will announce it officially. They'll just speed up some measures a bit. But in 2 months, there won't be a single intact oil refinery left in Russia at all. And they will consume all the fuel reserves. What kind of mobilization are we talking about? What kind? Can you imagine against the backdrop of a deep fuel crisis, when the autumn rise in food prices begins, when everyone realizes that at most a third of the harvest has been gathered, and then on top of that, Putin will start tightening the screws with mobilization? Well, we'll see. By the way, yesterday Trump didn't call Putin after his conversation with Zelensky, as he had announced. The Kremlin reported this. Trump didn't want to talk to Putin. Peskov said that Trump was probably busy. Yes, at the very meeting. Of course, he was busy. And Peskov also said that the Kremlin sees Trump's statements about Kyiv striking deep into the Russian Federation not as an escalation but as a misunderstanding by the US leadership. The more Kyiv strikes Russia, the wider the buffer zone will become, Peskov stated. So, according to the Kremlin, what Trump said, yes, of course, we should strike at Russia. That's absolutely the right decision. Ukraine is doing great. So in this statement, Peskov and the Kremlin saw that someone had deceived Trump, someone had tricked him, and that's why he's saying these things. It's not him himself. Someone put some nonsense into his head. Then what about your rusty tubs aimed at Washington? Come on, roll them out of the garage even without fuel, at least let them stand there. That's how they'll try to scare Trump again. You know, it's interesting. How do Russians explain this to themselves? Trump said that striking Russia is a good idea, that it would bring Putin to the negotiating table. How do Russians explain this? Peskov comes out all calm and says, we don't hold it against Trump for this. In reality, he doesn't actually think that way. Are they just total pushovers or what? On the highest level. Just imagine for a second if Biden had said something like that. Solovyov would have already erupted like a volcano over there. I don't know, the entire Russian propaganda machine would have been unleashed. But really, Putin has always been a cowardly, rather dim-witted, spiteful liar. I mean, that's the real Putin. That's the one in that photo, half-crouched, dragging a briefcase behind Sobchak with shifty little eyes. That's the real Putin. And he hasn't changed. No matter how many new images they create for him, inside there's still that petty, cowardly nature that doesn't know how to get out of this war. Well, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, subscribe to this channel, don't forget. And let's help our assault troops from the 33rd Separate Assault Regiment. Our help, yours and mine. They need it desperately right now. And we have just a little bit left to go. Let's give it one more push. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.